Luis in Santa Barbara, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for taking me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been told not to use too much introductions in order not to waste time, so I'll go straight to the point.
Okay, thanks.
My subject has to do with the strategy that atheists must have when fighting religion. And to my surprise and a little bit of distress, I found that Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins have very opposite ideas on the use of the term that defines us, which is atheism. For Sam Harris, the word atheist has negative implications, philosophical and strategic implications. And in his book, I don't know if you read his book, Letters to a Christian Nation.
I read all of them.
He states that atheism is a word we do not need. And he believes that attaching a name to something carries real liability.
Yeah, Sam's
One
wrong.
of the reasons for this is that by accepting to be named atheists, we are consenting to be categorized as a marginal group, a sort of cranky subculture that meets in ballrooms, which I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't either. I think on this...
And also, his reference to negative philosophical implications is that philosophically, there is a fundamental confusion ever since the concept of new atheism and militant atheism has been used to keep our criticism of religion at arm's length and allowing religion to reject our reasoning without meeting the burden of answering the fundamental points atheism makes. And all that has created an environment in which this whole discourse between faith and reason will continue to be marginalized under the banner of atheism. So Sam Harris proposes not to call ourselves anything, not atheists, not nothing. We should be under the radar and fight religion and destroy it wherever we find them, but not using any labels.
Yeah, Sam's, I disagree with him. This position wasn't popular when he raised it. I don't like the way he characterizes it, and I think he's actually wrong to some extent on this.
Yes. However, I believe that new atheists, people who are coming out of the closet, or people who are just starting to wake up to our, let's say, ideas, may find themselves confused with these two opposite sides of the spectrum. Because on the other hand, when we see Richard Dawkins, he supports the idea of using the term atheist in a very strong way. Mm-hmm. You know, he even says that don't be polite, come out of the closet and be strong, fight, be a militant. And he indicates that the word atheism defines us properly, and that is a term that we should consistently. But for those who don't like that term, he comes with a proposal, which is we can use the word non-theist, which I agree with him. In my opinion, I think that personally I believe that we can go with Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins' ideas, both of them, depending on the specific conditions in which we are facing. I very much like your ideas, Matt, concerning how we should fight religion, but I also feel that Sam Harris has certain good points in his ideas, but not to be applied under all circumstances, only under certain circumstances. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess this is the end of my innovation with your show. Can I ask a question that has nothing to do with it?
Sure.
What is in the future for you guys? In other words, I am wondering if you guys have plans, for instance, to enhance your show, make it Saturdays and Sundays, or every day of the week, or things like that. What's for the future on this particular program that you have?
So it's an entirely volunteer effort. Right now we're using the public access TV studio. It's a matter of who has time to do what. I mean, we do a number of other podcasts as well, but we haven't done an episode of the nonprofit since like last October just because there's not enough time. So I don't see this becoming, all of us have day jobs, we're all volunteers, and so this is not the type of thing that's going to become an everyday show. But if fans of the show start contacting networks around saying, hey, there's this really cool show, maybe somebody, would actually pay some of us to do this regularly. But for right now, the only thing that we're really contemplating is moving out of the public access studio and doing it out of a building that we bought so that we can just have an internet show and be a lot more flexible in the schedule. Like it used to be a 90-minute show and now it's an hour. So we don't know.
Do you have any knowledge of a similar program than yours here in California? I've been looking for it, couldn't find it.
No, I'm not. As far as I know, we are the only public access live call-in TV show devoted to atheism in the world, although there are numbers of others who have tried it. The thing is, public access TV is dying, and
Is Ask an Atheist on public access?
they were on public access, but their public access got killed, and so now they do the show as a radio show podcast type thing. So, yeah.
One last question. If we atheists, let's say, decide to organize ourselves here in California and do something similar than what you do, is it a hell of a lot of work, or are we going to have serious problems? What is it that we are facing here?
I really can't tell you. It's going to be different in every city. Like I said, public access is dying. So first of all, you need to be in a city that allows public access, and not all of them have it. Of those that allow public access, not all of them allow live shows. And of those that allow live shows, not all of them allow call-in live shows. But there are plenty of atheists in California and organized atheists as well. I'll be in Orange County next weekend for the Orange County Free Thought Association's conference there. But it depends. I don't know. You could look into whether or not there's public access in Santa Barbara. And the biggest thing is finding people who have time and, some amount of knowledge to actually address the issues and just do it. I mean, it would be nice to have a gazillion shows like this, although ours will still be the best.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you very much for taking me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I just want to say, even though we agreed with that caller, or even though you expressed agreement, I didn't really say anything, but I don't have a problem with what he was talking about. It's still good because he still expressed these ideas. So I mean, you still got the ideas out, Luis, and so it's still worth it.
This concern that some people will be confused. Look, people are going to be confused no matter what. And one of the things about atheism is that we're not a hive mind, monolithic. There's nobody in charge. Just because Richard Dawkins says something, it doesn't mean anybody has to adhere to it or care. And the same thing is true for Sam Harris or myself or anybody else. There are good local and national organizations, and they may disagree on various points. And there's disagreement on which label to use as well. I like using the atheist label. I think it actually has a lot of value. I think it's honest. I think one of the biggest problems I had with what Sam suggested of let's stop using the atheist label is that it seemed very dishonest, and it seems to be a barrier to communication. It's like I'm an atheist. I'm also a secular humanist, feminist. There's about 1 billion labels that describe me. But if we're talking about the God claims, and somebody says, well, what do you think about, God? And I say, I'm a Fergalburgle. And they say, well, what's that? Well, I don't believe in a God. Oh, so you're an atheist? Well, yeah, but then why the hell didn't you just say that? You're going to get saddled with certain baggage based as much or more on what you actually say you believe or don't believe than which label you use for it.
Yeah, and one thing that's also interesting, I mean, the fact that you have two prolific atheist writers who are not in agreement on the issue. Mm-hmm. At first I was thinking, well, that should tell people something, that
mm-hmm.
You can disagree, you can form your own views, and it's fair to say that, I guess listen a little bit more intently to the views of people who might be more involved in an issue or something than I might be. But it still doesn't mean that after you listen to it, that just because they're more involved or they might be more well-read or even more informed, that their opinion is necessarily correct. And one thing that made me kind of chuckle was, I was thinking, well, here you have these two people that are writing these books on, atheists and atheism, and they don't agree, and so that tells you that it's okay to disagree and that, there's not this agreement. But when that happens with Bible books, you just make up an interweaving story that makes them agree, right? You would say, no, they don't really disagree. What's happening is that one of them is just saying that you shouldn't use the atheist label like in situations where, and you would make up like this weird little thing to sort of make them not disagree and say, okay, now that's resolved. And so see, there's no disagreement among the atheist writers. They agree all the time. You just have to understand it and read it correctly.
Yeah. And those who read it one way will form their denomination,
Yeah.
and those who read it another
And people
way.
who think it's a contradiction just don't know how to interpret it. They're not reading it with an open mind.
Yeah, there's nothing from the atheist community that's
You have
in
to first
contradiction at all.
believe they don't contradict before you read it, and then you'll see that it doesn't.
Perfect.